Well, it's been amateur hour in the White House and amateur hour on the Hill. None of these people have the intellectual or professional depth to do their jobs. That's the simplest explanation for the terrible position we put ourselves in. It's just that now the so-called curtain is being pulled back. The rest of the world recognizes us for what we are. We're not serious. We're not a serious country. And I'm afraid that that's the widespread opinion of us. And for Americans, what they need to understand, this is analogous to living in a house and watching one of your tenants in the house burn the other one half of the house down. And then the fire is put out. And everybody says, well, thank God the fire's out. At least we've got half a house left. And he says, oh, no, wait. I've got matches. I can burn the rest down. And people say, okay, well, if you think you need to, go ahead and do that. And that's what his supporters in the MAGA movement, whatever number are left, that's effectively what they're saying. Oh, I think it's great what he's doing. He needs to get those guys and kill them. And oh my God. And of course, most of these people have never pulled a trigger in their lives and never shot anything. Maybe Bambi, if that, but that's all. It's depressing, but that's where we are now. And I wish there was some good news, but I just don't see any. And the fuel business is going to come home to hit us hard. We're going to have unrest in this country through most of the summer. All the usual suspects that were out there before will be out there again, only this time. I think you're going to see the citizenry that has been asleep and been trusting the words of people in Washington for too long also go out on the street. And I think that's going to be very rough.
Yeah, especially when those manifesting problems start occurring here and shelves are empty, prices for what's there is more than they can afford. Obviously, gasoline will be going up through the roof. That's when I think you're going to start seeing some of that stuff. But let me ask you just kind of on the near term here. I showed you this chart earlier that showed that we have more naval power in the region than we had even at the start of the war. There's more air power. We've been restocking missiles. And let's take a look at this is what happened during the first 40 days. You see these are the attacks by U.S. and Israel against Iran. And so there was a considerable amount, caused lots of damage, at least anything above ground. And then you look at what the Iranians were able to do in response. And so it's obviously at a much lower rate, but it was sustained all the way through in large part because of the underground facilities, et cetera. And yet that limits its stuff. This is what it had on our aircraft alone. All these are losses, either destroyed or damaged, et cetera. So the question is going to be now, if we go in, and President Trump is good on his word on this, and the one thing he has been good on is using military power. If this is true and there is no meeting at all, much less a successful one, then he goes back to the military. What can we expect then out of this additional firepower that's different from what we saw the other side or the first half?
Well, first of all, I'm not in on the discussions and I'm not sitting in the war room and I haven't seen any plans. I don't expect to receive any calls to inform me. So the best that I can tell you is that we will do what we did the last time, only we will do it with greater gusto. We will pick some new targets on the assumption, and that's my assumption, that based upon the intelligence studies of the last round, they're finding some new targets to attack. And you remember that the key to all of these air and missile campaigns is very much the same. Somebody walks in and says, okay, boss, I've been back over these targets. We've gone through them. We put them through AI. We've analyzed them. We're confident now that we've got the right set of targets. In addition to most of the ones we hit before, we've now got these new ones. We think this is the answer. In other words, you put enough rounds out there, eventually you're going to hit something that counts. I don't think that works, and I've seen that happen before. It's back to World War II. We bombed all sorts of things, trying to destroy production. German production never slowed down. But what we did succeed in doing, and we never fully appreciated it until nearly the war was over, was destroy the fuel production and distribution system, because that was key to stopping the German army and the German Air Force. That was vital. That did more to help the Soviets and their millions of troops reach Berlin than almost anything else we did. Now, I don't know what they're coming up with now, but I think they're going to have a tough time. As we've said before, Iran is a natural fortress. It's enormous inside. It's much larger than Germany was, much larger than Japan. It's the size, half the size of India. And that means the size of Western Europe. So the notion that you're going to find something now to hit that's going to change the outcome, I think, is unlikely. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with the ground troops. My impression is that President Trump, giving credit for getting something right, even a broken clock is right twice a day, he seems to have objected to the use of ground troops. I don't know who is arguing for the seizure of islands in the Persian Gulf, whether it's Karg or Abu Musa or whatever the things they are looking at. It doesn't make any difference. I think it's a waste of time. I don't think it changes anything. I don't see how putting soldiers or Marines on the ground in these places is going to demonstrate that we control anything. It's not going to wrest control away from Iran. And Iran still has 45 to 50,000, I would say, drones and probably 15 to 20,000 or more missiles. Those things are precision guided. They're going to get through and they're going to target wherever we are, whatever we do. So I hope that he sticks with his opposition to the use of ground troops, because I just don't see any payoff for their use in this setting at all. And I think we'll lose a lot unnecessarily. But we don't know what the great men that make these decisions are saying. And remember, President Trump is the sort of man that if he hears something he likes, he leans over right away and says, oh, yeah, I like that, without understanding what he really was told. And so I don't know what Special Operations Command is saying. I don't know what the various service chiefs are saying. I don't know what the CENTCOM commander, Admiral Cooper, is saying. Who knows? And I would be very careful about all these things in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. I think some of what they print is probably true. But unless you were in the room and you not only heard what was said, but you could see the people saying these things, you can't really pass judgment.